that your actual, literal purpose as a bodybuilder is to go to the gym and intelligently, rationally, logically, knowingly do what nature requires merely to activate the growth mechanism, then get the hell out, go home, rest, and grow.
He's known for everything from his 1980 Olympia brawl with Arnold to his strong duty training technique. Mike Mentzer is considered as one of the first generation of bodybuilders. Mike's tale is tragic, but it is also one of forgiveness and determination. He will be remembered not just for having among the most incredible muscular bodies of all time, but for providing one of the most incredible tales. Many bodybuilders undervalue themselves. They quit training because they incorrectly attribute their lack of sufficient improvement to a complete absence of the required hereditary features rather than their unreasonable training and eating choices. Mike Mentzer began bodybuilding when he was 12 years old. He has been born and raised in Pennsylvania and became known as the Heavy Duty. Mike's father, who came from a well-educated family, would routinely test and promote his skills and knowledge with a variety of prizes, including money, to guarantee he succeeded. Mike's father purchased his first weights for him. Mike started exercising 3 times per week at the age of 15, and by the age of 15 he would also bench press 370 pounds, that's 170 kilograms, with a body mass of just 165 pounds, 75 kilograms. Mentzer, on the other hand, was just getting warmed up. Mike spent 6 days at the gym, usually up to 3 hours at a time, before he started his 4-year duty in the United States Air Force. Mike won his first contest, a Mr. Lancaster, when he was 18 years old in 1971. However, he suffered his biggest setback that year, finished 10th in AAU Mr. America competition. Mike met Arthur Jones during this occasion. Jones, an established trainer and the creator of several early exercise devices, started teaching Mike because he was confident in the team's abilities. Mike sustained a major shoulder injury in 1971, which forced him to take an extended break from training. From 1971 until 1974, he was on the road. In 1974, Mike started studying psychology as a way of keeping his mind engaged during his free time. Even so, in 1977, Mike dropped out because he didn't like the subject. Mike didn't pick up the weights till 1975, but then when he did, he returned with vengeance. Mike joined the 1975 IFBB Mr. America competition to see how he stood. Upon Roger Callard and the Black Prince Robbie Robinson, it was a good comeback, finishing in a respectable 3rd position. It was Mike's next big competition, the 1980 Mr. Olympia in Australia. Mike has begun taking amphetamines a year before, in 1979. He said that he required it for work and that he didn't do it for fun. Mike started to experience weariness and would, having spent whole days at home, unable to move an arm, despite the fact that there were no long-term adverse effects recorded at the time. He characterized the sensation as being on the verge of death. In the days leading up to a 1980 Olympia, Mike was visited by the death's door sensation for the 2nd time. Only the morning before the tournament did he feel like he was back to normal. "The best I could do was put on a brave front. It didn't seem like a typical competition. No one else was being themselves. All the way through, there was even a sense of tension and strain in the air." Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's been thought to be resigned, declared his desire to participate in the tournament later that day. Many candidates, including Mentzer, were enraged by this. He seems to have been a judge's top pick, and many contestants thought that with his newfound celebrity, he might win only on the basis of fame. Mentzer and Schwarzenegger were scheduled to meet, and according to numerous sources, insults were hurled at one another and a fight was on the verge of erupting between them. Mike Mentzer came in 5th position. Arnold, even thought he broke formation several times and was warned by the judges, came 1st. Because of this, Mike was not afraid to talk disparagingly about it during his seminars. That may have led in him being placed on an unofficial blacklist by the International Federation of Bodybuilders. This might be a mistake since Mike had almost no income 2 years following the blacklisting. Mike had landed a job as writer of Workout magazine about the middle of 1983. He adored his job, but he needed amphetamines to remain up for 2 to 3 days straight to fulfill timelines. The journal was going very well until, as it began to produce wealth, the finance guys for some reason yanked the plug on the entire thing and we terminated operating, he alleged in 1985. "It hit me like a ton of bricks. I'd throw all I had into the business and it hadn't worked out. Mike's 10-year-old relationship with fiancée Kathy Gelfo came to an end shortly after Workout magazine halted publication, and as if that wasn't enough for Bodybuilder to deal with, he also lost his loving father. Mike Mentzer's downfall was precipitated by these 3 catastrophic incidents as well as his persistent usage of amphetamines. Mike fought his devils for 5 years and he was hospitalized multiple times. Mike was mostly shunned by the bodybuilding scene at this time. However, 2 individuals stayed loyal to him: John Little, a columnist at Flex magazine, and Mike's old girlfriend, Julie McNew. Despite the fact that our relationship terminated, Julie was very supportive emotionally and financially over the 5-year period. Mike explains, "It's only now that I'm able to appreciate her companionship. Aside from a few others, John Little approached me without supposing that I was loony or insane. John understands the power of thinking and how it works in the mind. He could then converse with me for hours, and I have great memories of such discussions, which makes me think of John Little. He rarely dismissed me." Mike was confined to a hospital bed once again by the year 1990. This time, though, things were different. But rather than trying to blame others, he understood that he, not everyone else, was the one that was out of control. Mike pledged to himself that he would get back on track after this discovery. He contacted Gold's Gym in Venice a few days after discharge from the hospital and persuaded them to hire him as a life coach. It was all uphill from there. Despite a few setbacks, Mike managed to make a reputation for himself and was soon back on the road. After being named Mr. America in 1979 and experiencing kidney failure, Mike's younger brother Ray began receiving kidney dialysis treatment in 1999. When Mike was examined to see whether he would be able to give a kidney to his brother, physicians discovered that he had serious cardiac problems. Ray was made much longer when the transplant was ruled out due to lack of available organs. As a result of Mike's decision to live with Ray and care for him, the two developed closer over time. Mike Mentzer died on June 10, 2001 at the age of 57. The day before, he and his brother Ray was always hard at work developing a training DVD dubbed HIT for the military. A hard day of shooting had led Ray exhausted and he had slumped into his bed. Mike worked on the screenplays till the small hours of the morning because he is Mike. The older brother insisted that he take a nap, but he did. On that specific morning, Mike's brother found him dead in his bed. In the middle of the night, he had suffered from a heart attack. In the aftermath of his father's death, his sibling would suffer a similar fate not long after. A dialysis patient, Ray, was found dead in the very same bedroom 48 hours before failing to appear for his scheduled appointment. I mentioned in my novel Heavy Duty 2, Mind and Body, that concept of precise is best is more important than the concept of more is best, and as I discovered by training nearly 2,000 people, including myself, the precise amount of exercise required to cause ideal growing stimulation is really not nearly as much as you have been led to believe or would like to believe. High-intensity training HIT was developed by Arthur Jones in the 1970s and was the basis for Mike Mentzer's training method today. The heavy-duty variation chosen by Mentzer, on either hand, is based on this particular model. You need a weight that would let you hit failure in 6 to 9 repetitions for this exercise to be effective. Afterwards, keep going even when you feel like you're about to give up. To push himself beyond muscle failure, Mike would rely on a spotter, typically his younger brother, to complete 2 to 3 force reps as negatives, slowly decreasing the weight with him. Mike's physical appearance would be kept in tip-top condition. The weights were moved in a steady and controlled manner, which was pleasing to see. It was imperative that I obtain some rest. A typical training week for Mike consisted of 3 days in the gym and 4 days of recovery. With time and experience, he started to take 4 to 7 days off between workouts and his bodybuilding skills improved. We all functioned in the same manner on the inside, Mike saw, despite the fact that everyone had distinct expectations. The enormous quantities of protein advocated by publications, according to Mike, were not necessary for bodybuilders to achieve their goals. This is a point of view held by a large number of bodybuilders today. The fact that muscle contains just 22% protein shows that our protein requirements are not nearly that large. Mike writes on his book Heavy Duty. Just because muscle contains 70% water does not suggest that you should begin ingesting buckets and gallons of fresh water every day in order to accelerate your muscle building process. Mike Metzer's food was rather diverse in terms of food sources, and he divided his meals into 4 food groups, each with a certain number of servings. Typical bodybuilders' meals would be divided into the following categories according to him. A daily dose of cereal and grain meals of at least 4 servings is recommended. Every day consume 4 or more servings of fruits and vegetables. Every day consume 2 or more servings of high-protein meals, fish, meat, eggs. 2 servings of milk and milk products related per day are recommended, milk and cheese. Since he was a child, Mike has looked up to Bill Pearl for bodybuilding inspiration. Bill made no disparaging remarks about Mike or his brother. The foundation of Mike's training philosophy was based on Arthur Jones and HIIT, despite the fact that he was first inspired by Bill Pearl. Arthur Jones was likely the most influential figure in Mike Metzer's life and work, and as a result he should be regarded as one of his most important influencers. Mike was also greatly influenced by Ayn Rand, an Russian-American novelist, philosopher, and dramatist who lived between the United States and Russia. As a result of Ayn's encouragement, Mike began to work out and live his life in a more unconventional manner. Adversity had a role in Mike Metzer's life, and he was no exception. Among the factors contributing to his downfall were his use of amphetamines to improve his productivity, the loss of his father, and his gradual rejection by members of the bodybuilding community. After considerable soul-searching, medical visits, and the aid of a few close friends, he was able to return home. As he passed away, Mike Metzer's legacy will live on. Bodybuilder who is dedicated, energetic, and well-versed in his craft. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. When things appear to be going wrong or you're strayed too far off the path, remember that you can always get back on track.